Hey gang, Wonder Rob here.
And Shop's here too.
This podcast is part of the Geek So To Speak network.
Visit geeksotospeak.com for our full podcast lineup. Captain's log, stardate 99790.3. He's back. Q is back. And this time, there may be no undoing the damage he has done. Co-Captain Vactor and I, Co-Captain Schaff, remain steadfast on our continuing mission to recap and review Star Trek Picard Season 2 each week and share the latest Trek news. What's next for Picard and his courageous crew? Is Q's next trial for Picard a lesson or a penance? Tune in to find out more. Welcome back to TREKnological. My name is Schaff. I am co-captain of the USS TREKnological. My co-captain, if you will, my podcast co-host with the most is Vactor. You may know Vactor from Vactor Loves Comics on Geek So To Speak, or you may know him from the Holdo Maneuver, which is a Star Wars themed podcast, or you may know him from the Sandbox Gamers podcast, which is all about video game playing and being a idiot. Or you may know him from Seasons Change, or you may know him from Rant to the Future, or you may know him from Life.
Yeah.
How's it going, Vactor?
Excellent. Every week I'm looking forward to discussing Star Trek with my boy Schaff and with you, the listeners.
That's right. I look forward to it as well. You know, we were really looking forward to this. We were hoping to record yesterday after work. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And this is actually kind of a really important thing to remember about our podcast is we're just two hardworking dads. We've each got toddlers, and sometimes it's a struggle to get in that recording time if your baby is crying or she needs something or whatever. He or she needs something. So that happened yesterday, and it was just a situation where we had to sort of obviously roll with the punches and find another time to record. So that's why we're recording on Saturday morning instead of Friday. The episode is coming out one day late, but it's still relevant because we're going to be talking all about Star Trek Picard, and there was a decent amount of Star Trek news to get out of the way too. So if you didn't know already, we are a spinoff of Geek So To Speak. We're a part of a podcast network. So we provide a short form Star Trek podcast, and then Geek So To Speak is the overarching umbrella of geek culture. So it'll be your source for all things geek, movies, TV shows, the occasional video game content that's not being discussed by the other spinoff show, Sandbox Gamers. And then if there's any Star Wars news or Star Wars feature content, then you can always expect that on the Holdo Maneuver. So lots to listen to, lots to enjoy. We're just trying to give you so much to consume that you literally throw up geek content. It's too much for your stomach to take in, but you can't help yourself. You just want it that badly.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. If it's your first time listening to TREKnological, we do hope you'll subscribe, rate us, review us. We are on social media as well, and we'll get into the social media handles and whatnot. But pretty much TREKnopod is where you'll find us on a lot of those various channels. So, Vactor, I think we should get into some Star Trek news.
Let's do it.
Now, we've got a couple of articles for you today. The first one is related to a trailer that dropped, and this was Paramount / Star Trek getting real clever, real classy, and jumping on the coattails of Star Wars and the Obi-Wan trailer that just got released, as well as any of the other Obi-Wan news. But the Strange New Worlds trailer for the next Star Trek series on TV dropped, and it was about I'm not sure how long the trailer was, but it was
a minute and a half.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would dare to say, more of a teaser than anything else, because it doesn't really give you any idea about the plot. but we do know a few things related to it. Obviously, we see Captain Pike, who the last time we saw Captain Pike, he was on Star Trek Discovery, and he spoilers, not really spoilers, but spoilers for those that that don't know enough about Captain Pike and maybe don't watch Discovery. Even still, it's not really a spoiler, and I'll explain why. But Captain Pike, from the original series, Captain Pike, he suffers like a grisly fate. And in Discovery, he actually gets a glimpse of what his future will be like. And so that kind of sets him on this depressed path. And that's why at the beginning of this teaser trailer, he's kind of in a glum state. He's grown a beard. He's living out on some like cabin in the middle of nowhere, riding horses and stuff. So that's like him sort of responding to this information that he got, this like foresight about what, his fate will be. And that's sort of like the jumping off point. But we also have more adventures of the original crew minus Kirk, because Kirk was not yet captain at this point. So it's going to be the Enterprise, which is really cool. We're going to see the Enterprise on screen again. And one thing that's really cool about this Vactor that I was looking into is we were talking about this last week about how Star Trek shows typically are now more, they follow some overarching storyline, right? Like the series, it's harder to get into because it's not approachable like that anymore. It used to be like episodic.
Yes.
And so if you missed an episode, it didn't necessarily really affect you in terms of like the character development and this or that. There wasn't like truly like a season long arc. But this show is going to be hearkening back to the old days, which was an episodic format. Ooh. So now Strange New Worlds is going to be like that. So I think that's really, really cool. You're getting the classic USS Enterprise. So you're going to get a lot of homage to the original look, the vibrant costumes. And honestly, I think Anson Mount as Captain Pike, he's excellent. He's awesome. So, I'm really looking forward to this.
My Captain Pike history is really just Bruce Greenwood in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek. So I don't have a whole ton of knowledge or history with the character, but I'm excited to explore this strange new world come May. And it's actually coming out before the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's interesting because I think when I found out that Obi-Wan was going to be coming out soon, I assumed it would be out on May the 4th.
Yeah, right.
And then they were like, no, we'll do it on May 25th because it's an anniversary date of when New Hope came out in the theaters. But now it seems like they would have been better off doing it on the 4th just to sort of get the one-up on Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the trailer, and my wife enjoyed it too. As someone she has a mild interest in Trek and she wants to learn more. So just by watching the trailer, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's something I would watch. That show looks good."
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We get more Spock, and I'm blanking on the guy who played Spock in the Discovery version, but obviously he's going to be playing him again in Strange New Worlds, and he was excellent too. Thankfully, he's got the beard gone. So he's not a bearded Spock anymore.
Ethan Peck.
Not that we don't like bearded Spock, but clean-cut Spock is the way to go. So the other bit of news that we got this past week is actually related to video game content. So one thing I introduced Vactor to the other day was Star Trek Online. Have you had a chance to get into that?
I set up my character, but that was as far as I was able to get to. I really want to play some more and play with you.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Did you choose anything besides like a human species?
I want to say I was looking at Vulcan, but yeah, I ended up going human.
Okay. I went Ferengi just to be like weird and different. I was like, I kind of want to be short. I want to see what it's like to be like a short captain. So I went Ferengi. I can't remember what I named him. It was probably some like Ferengi version of Shoff. I don't know. But anyways, the other bit of news is a Star Trek video game that's going to be coming out. We got a gameplay trailer And this is an article that came out like 4 days ago, but it is from a team of former Telltale developers. The game itself is called Star Trek Resurgence, and it's heavily involving Spock. And it's also set in the year 2380, which is the era immediately following the Star Trek Next Generation movies. So, but it's going to be focused on a lot of like dialogue tree type stuff, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. The trailer. Did you watch this gameplay trailer?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was. I hate to say it, a little bit boring. I guess it's going to differ from most Telltale games in the sense that it will not be an episodic thing. It's going to be released as a single large story. But there was like 7 minutes of gameplay. There was like 6 different choices of like ABC responses you could make in the conversations that they showed. There's apparently going to be 2 playable characters, and you'll switch between them. But I mean, the fact that it's Star Trek makes me want to play it, so I'll do that. But it's a narrative adventure game featuring dialogue choices, relationship building, and exploration. So,
have you
I'll give
actually
it a shot? But go ahead.
Have you played any of the Telltale games?
You know, it's this is like deja vu. I was recording with Wonder Rob last night for Geek So to Speak, and he asked me the same question if I had played any Telltale games, and I was like, I know I've played the Walking Dead game, and I've played the Back to the Future game.
Yes, nice.
I thought I had played a Star Wars game, but I guess they haven't made a Star Wars game, but it is in production right now. They're working on it.
The one that, as far as I know, the only sci-fi one they're working on is the Expanse. That's the current one that they're working on. I don't know if they have the Star Wars license. I don't know what the contracts behind that are. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about Star Wars.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, so it looks interesting for Star Trek fans, Trekkies, Trekkers out there. If you haven't had a chance to check this out, look up Star Trek Resurgence. It was first revealed at the 2021 Game Awards, and so we got a little bit more information just this past week. So as we learn more about this, we will certainly keep you posted. And once it becomes a game that we can play, maybe we'll try to set up a Twitch. Or get up, certainly get some gameplay videos up on YouTube. And
yeah,
like that.
I wonder if, because it's not Telltale, but it's from some of the guys who worked at Telltale, there was a feature called Crowd Play that they had on the Telltale games where you could play with other people, and whether it's in person or on Twitch, people calling in, and they get to vote on what choice you should make. And whoever, had the most votes, that's the choice that it went in. Hopefully this has something like that, and we could play online with people and have people tune in and say, oh yeah, I want them to go this way. That might be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, I feel like whenever I'm presented with those dialogue options, I play it too safe all the time. I play it way too safe because I'm like, I don't want to really mess up my progress here. I don't want to make people hate me. So I'm just a lowly cadet. I need to build up my rankings. So
yeah.
But anyways, this is supposed to be out later this year. It's going to be available on PC on the Epic Game Store. So more information about that is on StarTrek-Resurgence.com. Now, we've got the Star Trek news out of the way. It's time to get into our recap/review of Star Trek Picard, the second episode of the second season, which was titled Penance. So, Vactor, first and foremost, before we get into anything else, of course, we want to let our listeners know spoilers. If you haven't had a chance to watch this episode, please do so first. We don't want to spoil this for you, but definitely come back because we'll have a great discussion about it, and you don't want to miss that either. So, what did you think of this episode?
I loved it, and I cannot wait for the next episode. At the very end, I thought it was going to be a commercial break, and when the credits rolled, I was like, what? No, you left me hanging.
Yeah. I really felt, so obviously we're going to kind of be jumping around on the plot, but I really felt that the way they ended it, I thought for sure that they were building up to the ending would have them actually travel back in time.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was thinking also.
Yeah. But there was so much they had to do, so much legwork to get to that point that
Right.
by the end of it, I was like, okay, I get it. Like they didn't want to rush this. So, but the story feels very focused. And this second episode, dare I say, better than the first episode. Because it felt like it was more intense the entire time. Like there was no real lulls. That every scene was interesting and different. Probably because we're seeing these characters put in this like really off-putting. I don't want to say alternate timeline, but that's what they think at least at first.
Right.
It's an alternate timeline. So
Also,
craziness.
I think because we already did the legwork, and it's like that with movies also. Once you get the origin story out of the way, a lot of times the second movie is more exciting because you're not having to bring everybody and introduce everybody to everything. That's like with the first episode, it was, all right, we got to explain where is everybody? What are they doing? How do they get back together? The second episode is like, all right, they're here. These guys, everybody's ready. Although we had to kind of pick up what happened to each one of those guys. So we had almost another origin of how do we get everybody back together, but it moved.
It's true.
Yeah, it just moved. It was so much more. The pace was just so much faster, and I think to its credit, because the first season of Picard, as much as I like it, it was very slow, and there was a lot of kind of getting to places and exposition and things. Whereas with this one, I feel like I'm already in the world of Picard. I already know what's going on, and the first two episodes, I think, and I think you said this to me maybe offline. I think the first two episodes are better than the entire first season of Picard.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What's interesting to me about this episode is, like you said, that you have to kind of get caught up on where everyone is. I feel like the logic of where everyone is a little bit difficult, like in terms of like, it's hard to accept from a narrative perspective. And I'll get into that a little bit more and what I mean about that. But let's just kind of get into the recap itself, so we can kind of go through. Obviously, the episode begins. We find out that Q, and this is kind of what I had predicted, right? So last week I didn't think that the ships exploded. I felt like Q had intervened and stopped all of that from happening, and that's what he basically did. So he intervened. He scooped up Picard and his crew, brought them to this. As we know it, an alternate timeline. And this timeline is the worst. Picard is like a ruthless, xenophobic general in the Confederation. I love that, like, play on words, confederation. It's very clever. And he's helped in the annihilation of just all these alien species. They talk about the Cardassians, the Vulcans, the Romulans, the Klingons. Excuse me. And he's in pursuit of basically a pure galaxy. It reminds me of Danny DeVito. I have to be pure. But one thing that is repeated multiple times throughout this episode is the, motto or mission statement: a safe galaxy is a human galaxy. We see Picard even has in his on his chateau in one of his rooms, he's got a room devoted to weapons and skulls of people that he's killed along the way.
Yeah.
And these are skulls. These are nice little Easter eggs of characters that we know from previous shows or movies or whatnot. So Gul Dukat, his Cardassian skull is there. General Martok, Klingon skull, and then Sarek, Vulcan daddy to Spock, is dead too. So just wild. It was when that scene was happening, I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was funny because I got half of them, and then the other half I was like, I know if I knew more Star Trek lore, I would know every single one of these. So I was happy that they had that in there. And the Ferengi skull, it was like, are the ears bone or are they cartilage? Like, that was interesting to see all the different anatomies of the different skulls.
Oh yeah. I wish I could have just gone into that set and just looked at everything on the walls, because they scan by so fast.
Yeah. Right.
There was even apparently a nod to Star Trek Discovery and one of the like Klingon like armor suits and such, like that was reminiscent of that too. So that they were really trying to bring everything together, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And also, interestingly enough, the current season of Star Trek Discovery has referenced Picard a few times. So even though like Discovery was already on the air, like, I don't know, a few months ago, it started its fourth season. Like they were referencing stuff happening at the end of Picard. So it really felt cohesive. It was kind of cool.
Nice.
We find out that Picard is now, he's got Romulan servants he's got Romulan slaves instead of servants.
Right.
Laris, who he may or may not want to bone, is dead in this timeline. So he's not going to get a chance to
Poor
do
Picard.
things. Yeah.
But this guy's, he's probably got a love slave somewhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's not hurting. He's not hurting for attention. No, definitely not. He's totally changed up his favorite drink in this particular timeline too. Goodbye, Earl Grey hot. Hello, Colombian roast black.
Yeah. That was a funny Picard twist. That's what I like about alternate timelines or mirror universes. I like the juxtaposition and saying, this is a character we know so well. So when they flip it and have something like that, something that's a Picard staple, it's just a fun thing for the fans.
It's so true. Like, how many other characters do you just know right off the top of your head what his favorite drink is?
Right.
You know, like,
right.
That's rare. Like,
Right.
to know somebody so well, to know a character so well that you know that. So that's great that they are able to flip that on its head.
Yeah.
We find out in the episode that it's Eradication Day in this particular timeline, and that means that sort of a celebration of all the species they've killed, and they have plans to kill another species, and eradicate them from the galaxy. We find out that as we start to pick up the pieces of where people are, 7 of 9 wakes up, and she's conveniently got her hand covering where her Borg implant would be as she wakes up. And we find out that she's no longer a Borg. She's a president. She's the president of the Confederation, Annika Hansen. No more Borg implants. And she's married to, I don't know what his name is besides being the chief magistrate, but he's a real snively little dude. Like, as soon as he came on screen, I was like, what is this, Odd Job? Is this Odd Job? I was like, slappers only? No. Who throws a shoe? I mean, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he just exuded sliminess when you saw him.
Yeah.
And actually, for some reason, I was just watching that Netflix movie, The Adam Project, and there was a guy in there that I thought was the same actor and was playing.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that made me racist or not.
Well, I had the same thought.
Okay, good.
But it was similar.
Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers.
It was a similar snively character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, why would she marry him in this universe? What did he do? And was she the first character that we saw have the same memories? Because we knew with Picard that he had the same memories, but
Right.
was Annika the first one that was not aware of this new timeline, I think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's the first one we see. Yeah. She quickly picks up on it though. Like,
Right.
she's really fast and moves on her feet really well, because she's just like scanning through the computer terminal, and she's like, I need to talk to, and she like swipes a couple of times, and she sees Cristobal Rios' his name, and he's a colonel fighting in the Vulcan War, and she's like, I need to talk to this guy, Colonel Rios. So she really like was able to like think on her feet pretty fast. We also got some cool Easter eggs. So at one point when Seven is like, I need to talk to, somebody in the military, and the chief magistrate is like, well, dear, he says dear like every 5 seconds in this episode. Dear, I can get General Cisco on the line. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are we getting Avery Brooks over here?
That would be great.
I was so excited.
Yeah. Which I was
And it didn't
just
happen.
showing my wife the first episode of Deep Space Nine earlier this week. And just, I remembered how much I love Avery Brooks and his voice and his delivery. So
Oh, yeah.
that would be great.
I would love that. Oh my god! Well, it's not too late. I mean, who knows what other characters they'll bring in from whether it's Deep Space Nine or original or not. I'm sorry, not original. Next Generation, things like that. So we catch up with Rios, and he realizes that he's piloting La Serena, his ship from the first season of Star Trek Picard, and so that's cool to see him back on that ship.
Yeah.
But in this version, he's gunning down Vulcan ships. He's at like the front of the war, the Vulcan War, just annihilating Vulcan troops. So just crazy. We continue to sort of unravel with more crew members becoming aware of the circumstances. We see Elnor. He's now this like rebel guy. He's an insurgent. He's part of this like terrorist group. It's an opposition of the Confederation. Raffi is some kind of chief of police. And this is when I was talking about how like the logic of where people end up, this kind of bugged me a little bit. So it makes sense to me that Elnor and Raffi would theoretically end up sort of in the same spot, I guess, because they were on the Excelsior ship, and that was not on the Stargazer ship when Q snapped everybody away, right? So I guess it would make sense for them to be close. But the fact that they are legit, they come into contact with each other within 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds of becoming aware that they're on this timeline,
Right.
they're in each other's paths. Like that to me was just way too convenient.
Yeah.
From a storytelling perspective.
I didn't think about that.
And then it doesn't really, like, if you want to say, okay, well, they were on the same ship. Well, that doesn't hold up in that logic when you're looking at it from the standpoint of Girardi, Seven, Picard, Rios. They were all on the same ship together on the Stargazer, and yet they ended up in various points. Like, and they certainly haven't, at this point, they haven't connected with each other yet. Mm-hmm. So to me, it just felt like we need to get these people together. We don't have a whole lot of time. Let's just put them in the same spot.
Yeah. That's definitely something that maybe if it was in animation or something where there was like unlimited, whatever, they could put them. I think they could think about that a little bit more logically. But yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't make sense when you pull back the curtain and think about it.
Yeah. We do get caught up with Girardi. She's performing experiments on none other than the Borg Queen, which is really cool. Although I gotta say, I'm a little bummed that we don't have Alice Kriege back from First Contact. I know that we have had, this is actually the third person to play the Borg Queen, but just for me, the chemistry between Picard and Borg Queen from First Contact, like that would have been really great to build off of.
Yeah.
So it's a shame they couldn't get that to happen, but it's still great to see the Borg Queen and see the Borg Queen like we're used to seeing the Borg Queen, not how she appeared in episode 1.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely some nostalgia when I saw that. I was like, yeah.
and honestly, dare I say, Borg Queen sexy.
Wow.
I'm gonna say it.
I'm finding out new quirks about Shoff every time we record. There's something new,
and she's just a torso.
Hey,
we can't even have too much fun. But I'll tell you what. Assimilate me.
Wow.
Resistance will not be futile.
Wow.
Is it too early for that? It might be too early for that. All right. Quick shout out to Patton Oswalt, who basically provides voiceover for anybody who's willing, and I'm so proud of that. But he plays the voice of this digipet named Spot73, which for those that know, Data used to have a cat on Next Generation named Spot.
Yeah.
So,
when I heard his voice, I was like, wait a minute. He's done like Marvel stuff. He's done DC stuff. I don't know if I've heard him in Star Wars yet, but now he's in Star Trek.
he definitely predicted the Mandalorian's
Oh, yeah.
debut, or not Mandalorian, Boba Fett's debut. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He's
So-
an ultra nerd, ultra geek.
He's got such an iconic voice too.
Yes.
Such an iconic
Yeah.
voice.
Well, he was Remy the rat in Ratatouille. That's what I always
That's
think when I
right.
hear his voice. But now he's MODOK on the MODOK show. But yeah, I always love whenever I can hear his voice because, like you said, it's distinctive. You know who it is as soon as you hear it.
Yeah, it's so great. Okay, so Alison Pill, who plays Girardi, she's dialed up the comedy in this season, and I love that.
I
So
love her character.
I hope they keep that like that because she's so bumbling, she's so casual, and a lot of people are kind of stuffy sometimes on Star Trek, or more just like by the book, very technical jargon and all that stuff. And she, the way she just rolls off stuff, it's almost like she's improvising. Like it feels too natural, the dialogue. So it's really good. Borg Queen sort of is real frazzled. Obviously, we find out that I guess the Borg Queen has some kind of ability. She's a trans-temporal awareness. She can hear echoes of the past, present, and future. And that's how they know that it's not an alternate timeline. This is their timeline. It's just a divergence in time that happened back in 2024. So Picard's like, oh, well, we need to do some time traveling then. It's like so easy. We got to time travel. That's the problem. We got to go back in time.
Yeah.
You guys got a time machine? Oh, no? Oh, that's okay. We'll just slingshot around the sun. Kirk did it a couple of times. I was laughing. I was like, well, I'm excited about this because I love the slingshot maneuver. I think it's so clever and fun. But it was weird to me that Picard didn't even mention that they themselves went back in time when taking on the Borg. Like, I was like, that's a little more recent.
Yeah. That's funny.
What's going on there? Why don't you remember that?
Yeah.
Also, Vactor, I don't know if you caught this, but when Picard approaches the Borg Queen, there's this musical cue, and it is the exact music lifted from Star Trek First Contact score of involving the Borg. It's like this It's so like menacing. I love it. It's so seeing that and witnessing that was a really cool moment.
Nice.
They know they need to go to Los Angeles 2024, seek out the Watcher. They try to beam up to the La Serena ship so that they can go ahead and begin this process. They're trying to get the Borg Queen out. But because of Eradication Day, there's the whole thing is locked down. The whole building and everything is locked down. So they're going to have to sort of buy some time and improv their way through this. So there was one moment Girardi says, "As you were," after like this big long explanation to the chief magistrate, just like lying up and down. And I thought of you, Vactor, because you always say "as it were," and so I was like, Girardi and Vactor, they're in on this together. Really interesting though. Before we see the celebration, like Eradication Day, like ceremony, we see a brief shot of the exterior. And there's a projection of a person by the name of Adam Sung. And they're saying a safe galaxy is a human galaxy. That character, I'm thinking is going to be a much bigger deal. That character might be somebody, or at least somebody in that lineage is going to be a character that we encounter in 2024. When they do go back in time, because the character of Sung, if you recall, that's the lineage of people that made Data and the synthetics. So like
Noonien Sung.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's more to this character. Plus, it'll be played by Brent Spiner. So I feel like we are going to see this character in some more capacity. I think that was just a nice little brief sprinkling of what we're going to get more of.
Yeah, that's cool.
Star Trek got kind of vicious in this episode. I've never seen anybody slit someone's throat on Star Trek before.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That happened a couple of times. So
yeah.
that was wild.
And I was like, I guess because this is this timeline is going to be lost and changed, I don't have to worry about everybody getting killed. Because these are like, the equivalent of Federation guys.
Yeah, it's true.
So I was like half of me was like, yeah, get him, Elnor. And then the other half was like, wait a minute, should I be rooting for their deaths? But all right, these are disposable guys.
It made me think of in Austin Powers, there's like that after credits scene where it picks up with like the wife of the guy who gets bulldozed basically or steamrolled. He gets steamrolled.
Right.
And she's like, no one ever thinks about the lives of the families of henchmen.
Right. Yeah.
So they eventually do escape the ceremony with the Borg Queen in tow. They get up to the La Serena. They're plugging her into the ship. And before the episode ends, they get boarded by the chief magistrate and his security detail. And they're all held at gunpoint. Eleanor gets shot by a phaser blast. And that's where we're at. Just epic. I mean, it's great that they all got back together. It wrapped up pretty nicely. Where this goes from here, I'll tell you what, I don't think the chief magistrate is surviving the next 5 minutes of episode 3.
It was a perfect cliffhanger ending for me. Like I told you at the beginning, I wanted more immediately. I was like, where is it? Where's episode 3? Where's the next one?
I know. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I love being able to binge a show. I also like the suspense of waiting for the next one.
Yes.
But when a show is so good, I do not want to wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't make me wait.
It's a double-edged sword because we get to talk about it, week to week. We get to have this water cooler conversation. And I feel like that makes me more engaged in the show. It makes me feel like I have more of a stake in it versus a binging show where I'm not talking to people. I'm not saying week to week, hey, this was all the things I liked about it. This was things I didn't like about it. You're just consuming it on your own pace, and you just don't have that. So yeah, I like me and you discussing week to week.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of that too. What I wanted to make a brief mention to before I get the Trek term of the week and we close out our episode, something of note. The year 2024 is kind of a big deal in Star Trek lore, especially if you know Deep Space Nine. So, my computer, of course, is choosing now to be a funky thing. But yeah, basically, 2024 is really important to Star Trek because this is what time when there was these things called the Bell riots, named for their instigator, Gabriel Bell. This is a dark time for America. There's a lot of social upheaval. But Ben Sisko actually has to take over the persona of Gabriel Bell because he ends up going back in time. And he interferes in the storyline and accidentally gets the real Gabriel Bell killed. So Sisko is in this timeline. He takes on Bell's persona, place and his place in history. But it's a difficult time. There was this a lot of brutality, a lot of poverty, lots of slums basically. So, and this was in San Francisco. So it'll be interesting because they're still basing it in Los Angeles versus San Francisco for where they're headed to. I wonder if they'll touch on that. If there's going to be some aspect of sanctuary districts and just what Earth was like in 2024. So,
yeah.
So for fellow geeks out there and Trekkies and Trekkers beyond, keep your eyes peeled for episode 3, because I fully believe that there is going to be some reference to this, because it's hard to ignore what has already transpired on TV for 2024.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm
hard to ignore
2024.
Yeah. So yeah. Now let me grab my Star Trek encyclopedia. Vactor, are you excited for Trek term of the week? Because I don't even know what it's going to be. This one we're going to pick randomly.
Oh yeah, this is my favorite part of the show when Shaw picks his Trek term of the week, because not only am I learning, but you, the listener, are also learning.
All right. So last week it was Stargazer. Week before that was Morn. Give me a letter.
B.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, very good. All right, I'm excited. Okay. We landed on the SS Botany Bay.
Ooh.
The Botany Bay. Now, if you're a Trek fan, ideally you should know what the Botany Bay is. But if you don't, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis. The Botany Bay is an ancient DY-100 space vessel that was launched from Earth in 96. The Botany Bay was a sleeper ship carrying the former dictator Khan Noonien Singh.
Ooh.
That's right. And his followers who had escaped from Earth after the terrible eugenics wars. The Botany Bay traveled for 300 years. All the passengers were in suspended animation. And it wasn't until they were discovered near the Mutara sector that was the Space Seed episode, the famous Space Seed episode, which is where the Wrath of Khan comes from.
Nice.
They sort of built off of what happened in that. But in that Space Seed episode, Khan takes over the Enterprise. And by the end of the episode, Khan ends up getting marooned on Ceti Alpha 5. Or so we think.
Yeah.
He ends up on Ceti Alpha 6. And then all that stuff goes down. But then there's revenge is a dish best served cold. It is very cold in space. From hell's heart I stab at thee. For hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee.
So many
I can do the whole thing.
quotables.
Let's see if he tasks me. He tasks me and I shall have him. I'll chase him round the moons of Nebia and round the Antares maelstrom and round perdition's flames before I give him up. God! Anyways, one of these days we'll review The Wrath of Khan because we've got to. But but until then, I'll just have to keep quoting it. Vactor, any final thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, this one really hooked me at the end, and I'm very excited to see what comes next. These first 2 episodes have been action-packed so far, and it's the perfect time to be hosting a Star Trek podcast with Shav.
That's right. Totally agree. Co-Captain Vactor, thank you so much for being with me today. And Trekkies and Trekkers beyond, thank you for listening. If you're looking to find us individually on social media, of course, you can find our podcast at TREKNOPOD on Instagram and Twitter. But if you're looking for me, you can find me, ShoffVO, SHOFFVO, for voiceover, on Instagram, Facebook, and Fiverr, because I am a freelance voiceover actor. Additionally, we've got Vactor on Twitter and Instagram. Pretty much wherever you're going to find him, he's going to be Vactor. So at VACTOR. We're part of the Geek So to Speak network. As we said, the parent podcast, if you will, Geek So to Speak, is a geek news podcast, a weekly one that we get into all things movie, TV shows, and we scrape the content that is also covered by our sister podcast. That's Holdo Maneuver for Star Wars, Sandbox Gamers for video games, and of course us, TREKnological for Star Trek. Visit www.geeksotospeak.com for more details. You can also throw in a /network. That'll bring you right to our network page. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us. Next week, of course, we're continuing our discussion of Star Trek Picard. We're going to pick up with episode 3. We can't wait for this episode. We might have to kill someone to get it sooner, but we'll do what we have to. So yeah, Vactor, that's all I got for you today. A little bit longer episode, but there was a lot of geek news, a lot of Star Trek news. So
Yes.
you do what you got to do.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, I think Trekkies out there, live long and prosper. And Vactor, 2 to beam up.
2 to beam up.